Welcome back to episode 6 of the Big Life podcast. Jordyn, how's living the big life?
It's been great. Love living the big life. We had our first guest on. You'll get to hear her in a little bit, Miss Ava Cook, someone who I had the pleasure of sharing the field with and got to look up to. So
we're so excited to bring Ava Cook on the podcast today. We will get to her interview in a bit, and trust me, it's a good one that you're going to want to stick around for.
Absolutely.
Well, before we get too far into it, Jordyn, we have a sponsor for the podcast, so let's hear all about them. And in talking about them, I came up with a little joke for you.
Oh God, we're doing jokes now.
Well, I mean, if the shoe fits, and that seems to work perfectly with our new sponsor, Ida Sports, who is changing the women's footwear game and the way that we think about cleats.
Okay, try me.
So what do you call a foot that always loses? Defeated? Get it?
Oh, I get it. That was a good one, Sam. But I hate to break it to you, I don't think anyone wants to hear about feet, especially soccer players' feet on this podcast.
You know, here's the thing. They don't have to be gross.
Isn't that like a rite of passage, though?
Maybe it was, but Ida has addressed all these issues and more. And the next generation of players may not have to face all the missteps women have had to suffer for all these years.
All right. How?
Okay, stay with me here. But Ida's cleats are actually made for a woman's foot, not a man. So these are things like the foot shape for women tend to be a bit more triangular instead of man. And so the cleats are designed for that. Or the arch support are designed to minimize unnecessary foot pain and keep the ankle from collapsing inwards and different things like that. Ida has researched the differences in the feet between men and women, and they're creating cleats to really adapt for these changes. So learn more at idasports.com. We are so thankful for them, and they're really paving the way for the next generation of women.
Definitely a step in the right direction.
All right, Jordyn. So much has happened in college soccer, in Big Ten soccer, going into this next really critical week that we'll get into. Non-conference is over for us. That's a weird thing to say. We're almost halfway done with the season.
I mean, it seriously goes so fast. You blink and we're already heading into conference here. Sunday starts it off.
That's crazy. I was in the airport yesterday with our team. We were flying home from Virginia, and I remember all of our freshmen were like, you guys said this went fast, but oh my gosh. And it's just nuts how it goes.
It really is. And I mean, you can't emphasize it enough. You always try to prepare the next group coming in, and somehow, like, it never works. You can never prepare yourself for how fast this all goes, truly.
100%. Well, and I feel like with it being one of the last main weeks of non-conference season, there were a lot of upsets for us to talk about this weekend. This is really when teams start making a name for themselves, and a lot of it has happened. So let's talk about it. You know, what was the number one game that stood out to you this weekend that we saw?
I mean, for us, we were all looking at that Michigan game, Michigan beating Notre Dame. We played Notre Dame, unfortunately fell to them 2-1. And then to see Michigan pick up the win is, we were surprised, but mixed emotions there for sure. I'm not sure how this will affect our RPI and everything going into season now, because we'll play Michigan. We lost to Notre Dame, so if we beat them, I don't know. It's a whole circle.
We're starting the calculus of RPI and seeding. So for those of you, like apparently Jordyn last year, who didn't know what RPI was, sorry for the little dig there, had to go for it. RPI is basically this calculated ranking system, but it's based purely on scores, purely on certain factors, and it's basically this giant algorithm that ranks teams. And it's one of the factors that'll go into NCAA tournament, at-large bid, seeding, and all these things. So clearly you want your RPI as hard as possible, and getting a higher RPI is by beating teams above you, not losing to teams below you, all these different factors. So welcome to the calculus game that is now women's college soccer.
Yeah, I get a headache just thinking about it. I leave that to the coaching staff for sure.
That's fair. You just show up when you're told to, and that's the end of the deal. Speaking of showing up and showing out, we also have Utah Valley upsets number 19 USC 3-2 off of a hat trick from Faith Weber. So I know I saw this all over. Unreal. Imagine upsetting in a hat trick game like that. That's got to be so cool for her in that moment.
I mean, that has to be a highlight reel, right? Like, that's got to be top 5 moments in college soccer. How do you beat that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What else stood out to you this week?
Last week we talked about Providence. There is officially no longer a scoreless team, with Rutgers beating them 1-0, scoring the first goal all season on them. So congrats to Rutgers.
There we go. More Big Ten love, more Big Ten. And we have St. Mary's also with an upset this week, beating number 15 Washington State. So those rankings come out tomorrow. We record this podcast on Monday, so Tuesday the rankings drop. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how everything's shaken out.
Absolutely.
It's been a really fun week, I know, for us at Iowa, but let's talk a little bit about your week.
Yeah, we have some mixed emotions here. We ended up going and getting the first on the road ACC win in like 20 something years, 30 years maybe, against NC State. So we were down there, we beat them 2-1, and then we came home and we ended up tying Dayton 2-2.
Yeah, how's that feel? Kind of the mixed emotions of the weekend. How are you feeling going into Big Tens now and everything?
Yeah, I mean, Dayton being the most recent game, I think you still got a little sour taste in your mouth there. Not the result we wanted going into it, but really excited to get back, have a home game against Ohio State. So I have friends on the team, a bunch of friends that go there, show up for the game. It's always my favorite one of the season, kind of no matter what, just the hometown connections there. So I'm really excited for it. I think it will be a good game, and especially at home. There's no place like DeMartin. So
speaking of, the one fact that's going around a lot of the Iowa group chats right now is there's 30 unbeaten teams in NCAA Division I. There's 3 perfect teams that have, a perfect record with 0 ties. And there's 27 teams with a couple ties, but unbeaten. And for the first time since 2019, Iowa was one of them. So we're kind of riding a little bit of a high. Thank you. We went on the road against ACC dominant Virginia, got a 0-0 tie. It was a really good game, really fun game to be in. And then we played George Mason on Sunday and took home a 3-0 win. Center back Sam Cary did score. That doesn't happen often. I believe it was my second intentional college goal. So we're riding with it. It's great. We're loving it.
What do you mean intentional?
I think you know exactly what I mean by intentional. 6 college goal overall. We'll leave it at that. We're going to talk about all things college soccer. We're going to talk more Big Ten, but I don't think we can keep them waiting anymore. Ava Cook took some of her time to spend with us, and we couldn't be more grateful for it. I know we both shared the field with her, and I'm so excited for everyone to listen to our interview with her.
Definitely. I mean, just an amazing player for sure, an even better person. So really appreciate her taking the time to come and talk to us. I love her story, and I think it's really worth listening to any young kid out there who's trying to start the process or going through it currently, because like we talked about before, every process is different, and her story is so unique and so special. And
absolutely. Well, she lived the big life. So everyone coming up, Ava Cook.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Big Life. Me and Sam were chatting, and we thought you guys deserved an extra special guest. So for this episode, we brought on someone that I personally looked up to and had the pleasure of playing with, Miss Ava Cook. Started at Grand Valley, worked her way to Michigan State, and now is playing professionally for the Chicago Red Stars. How you doing, Ava?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I love the podcast, so I'm honored to be a part of it.
Oh my gosh, you're too sweet. You're warming my ego a little bit. Well, first of all, as someone, I got to throw it in there. I unfortunately had to mark you for a year when you were at Michigan State. And I know a little bit about your journey from the outsider's perspective. So I'm so excited to have you on the little bit of an inside. Going right into it, Jordyn and I talked a bit about recruiting last episode and how that looked like for us. Can we talk a little bit about how you became a college soccer player and what that looked like for you leaving high school, going to college?
Absolutely. I have said it 100 times. My transition was very interesting. It's definitely not a normal one by any means. So pretty much, my sophomore year of high school, I went to a Grand Valley camp, did what I could, and had a conversation with Jeff Hassler afterwards. And he pretty much just gave me a bunch of areas that I really needed to improve on. One, just being stronger. I was always just kind of one of those kids that I was just smaller, like I was smaller in nature, which is funny now because I'm, like 5'10". That's just not how it was. That's not how it was. So I took everything he said, obviously, to heart, because it's not easy to hear. No one wants to hear, areas that you essentially just aren't good enough. But I took it personally, and I went and I worked on those things. I got in the weight room. I went out and did what I needed to technically. And funny enough, my junior year, around the same time that Grand Valley camp was coming up, and I did not want to go at all. I was just really discouraged, from the first time. And part of that was probably a little immaturity, just being young and hearing things that you don't want to hear. But my good family friend him and my dad have coached together for years. His name's Todd Wells. he was like, well, you're going to the camp. And I was like, nah, I really don't want to. He's like, you're going because not only is Jeff going to be there, there's going to be 30 plus other college coaches there. Like, it's good exposure. And at this point, I had virtually no offers. Like, I hadn't been in contact with a lot of people. I was in a smaller D3 school in Michigan, and that was truthfully it. So I go back, and funny enough, Todd Wells, the man who made me go back, he goes, I know they need a left back. So go to the camp and play left back. And I am no left back. So I go and I play, and Jeff pulls me aside again. I'm like, okay, here we go, round 2. But the conversation was a 180 from what it was the year before. And it was now, this is where you're going to fit in our program. These are like what I see for you in the future. And it was obviously a huge point in my life and kind of a turning point. That's kind of how I ended up at Grand Valley. And I would not change any of that for the world. So definitely not your standard recruiting process for me, but it's one that I'm very thankful for. And it taught me one of the best lessons. And I love sharing it because I think it's a good lesson for a lot of people to learn, especially those who are going through a recruiting process.
That's awesome. That's so cool. We tried to emphasize so much last week that everyone has a unique journey and not to compare other journeys and stuff. So
Yep.
That is so cool that you had such a unique one. And, talking about Grand Valley, elite program in Division II, so many national championships. I was joking with Jordyn a little bit before, and there's a weird history that connects us all in the sense of I played at Iowa, and Dave Diani coached at Grand Valley before Jeff did. And soccer world's so small. So there's so many of my childhood best friend growing up played with you at Grand Valley. Mackenzie Jones is my best friend growing up, and different things like
Love
that.
her.
And so
Love that girl.
It's a small world in every regard, but there's so much stigma around D2 soccer. Let's talk about it. We're on the Big Life podcast. We're talking about Big Ten and the perks of being in a Power 5 Division 1. Why D2 for you? And frankly, what was the benefits for you of being at a D2 school for so long?
For me, that was the choice that I had. And I'm so lucky that it was Grand Valley. They are, talk about a dynasty of a soccer school for the D2 just division as a whole. Part of it for me was the culture and the standard that was upheld before I got there and while I was there, and something I could be a part of it. It's special, it's just not one that you really find at a lot of places. There would be some games where it would be 5-0 at halftime, and we would go in the locker room and the message was, that's just not good enough. And to me, that is a standard of wow, who cares that we're beating this team 5-0 if it's not what we could be doing? The score could be 8, the score could be 9. We could have connected more passes. We could have finished these opportunities. And that was something that happened all 4 years while I was there. And I personally loved it. It's one of those things where it's kind of just like a relentless, you don't let off, you keep going. And quite frankly, there's so many talented players at the D2 level that I'm sure probably had a similar journey to mine. Maybe they didn't get the looks that they wanted from a D1 program, and they were able to take that to the D2 level. I played against some amazing soccer players, and I especially played with some amazing soccer players. I loved my team every year. You talk about Mackenzie, she's a stud. She's awesome. She's so good. And it's definitely a lot different than D1. I had the COVID year. I had the opportunity to go to Michigan State, and it was definitely different. But just overall, the way that I was able to grow during my time at Grand Valley is something that I'm forever thankful for.
Amazing. So you spoke of having that COVID year and having the opportunity to then come to Michigan State. What was that decision like for you?
It was, I say this all the time, it was one of the hardest things I have ever had to do. My timeline at Grand Valley was interesting because, my sophomore year, we had an undefeated season up until the national championship game, where we unfortunately lost to a team, one that we had even beat prior in the regular season, which was a heartbreaker. Following year, junior year, we go back, we make it back to the national championship, same place, same field, so all the emotions. And thankfully this time we were able to get the job done and win. So I had so much excitement for my senior year. We had so many of the same returners, leaders that were going to be there. We had a great class coming in. I was we're going back to back. I know for a fact we're going to go back to back. And that's just kind of when everything hit the fan with COVID. I say all of this with a grain of salt. Like, I know that I'm sure COVID impacted other people in different ways. So it was a bummer for me, like we didn't get to play any out of conference games. We didn't have a tournament. And of course, I also got COVID myself. So I missed a game or two, which was even more of a bummer. And it really questioned if I wanted to continue to play. It really made me wonder, like, this sucks. But I really dug deep. I had some some self-talks where I was like, what do you want your future to be? What have you always dreamed? And I've always known, like, I wanted to be a professional soccer player. So then the decision becomes, okay, what's going to put me in the best position to become that professional soccer player? And it's not that staying at Grand Valley wouldn't have allowed me to be where I am today, because who knows, like there's so many good opportunities that come out of it. But I was at a point where I felt like I had done everything that I could have done at Grand Valley. I didn't really see another year to have complete, like, growth in a way that would prepare me to be a professional soccer player compared to what I've already done. So then it's like, okay, what's the next step? I have this extra year of eligibility. And I was obviously lucky enough to be able to consider Michigan State. And it was a place that was close to home. Still, for me, that's important, was being close to home. I would know the head coach, like he coached me for 4 years. And so now it became this battle of, do I leave everything that I love? I love the people, like they are my very best friends. They are pretty much family. Do I leave all of them? I don't want to betray them in any way. I don't want them to think I am ditching them, for something else. And it was a really big struggle for me. And I think it was kind of one that I struggled silently with for a little bit, because I was afraid to maybe, tell people, hey, I'm kind of thinking about transferring. And as soon as I voiced it to some of my teammates, they were like, you have to do it. Like, they were so supportive. And that's something that, like, I could not. I am so thankful that they were as supportive as they were, because then that really took a big weight off my shoulders of, okay, they're not going to hate me if I leave. Like, they're still going to love me. And they're the best friends ever. So it's not like they would either way, but it was a scary choice. And I kind of just came to the decision of, like, this is probably what's going to be best for my future. The Big Ten is an incredible conference for soccer. And I was like, I have to try it, like, I think this is the opportunity that I need to take. And I was so thankful to have the opportunity. And yeah, the rest is just kind of history.
That's awesome. One of the really unique things about this, and you kind of mentioned, is in that decision of you leaving Grand Valley, Jeff left Grand Valley and went to Michigan State. So following a same coach that you knew at the D2 level, going to D1, what was one of the big differences, or some of the big differences, going from Grand Valley to Michigan State?
It's hard. I mean, Michigan State, up until that point, wasn't always a huge contender in the Big Ten. It was something that I had heavily thought about. And I mean that with obviously the most respect. But that's just, it's just how it is, and that's fine. So I really didn't know what to expect when I got there. When I got there, it was kind of like okay, everyone here is so talented. And I think it took someone really pushing them to bring that out of everyone. And I saw that from, day one. I was like, this is going to be good. Like, I think that we are going to have a good year. And I think a lot of people are going to grow. And I obviously, I was with Jeff for 4 years. So I know his ability to make people grow. And I was just really excited for all these girls to kind of get that same, opportunity for levels of growth. And I think we really saw that year, and, the following years after that. The difference for me, the biggest one that stood out, was the pace of play. I think was just, it's a lot faster. I think there's so many people in the D2 level that are so technical and so skilled. And when you kind of combine that with just some pure athleticism that you see at least Michigan State, like, there's so many athletes on that team, and there's athletes on every team, but it's easier to teach skill, right? Teach technical, teach ideas, and then have the quickness on top of that, the fast pace, everything. It was a big jump, big similarities between the two divisions. There's really not that much of a difference. But that was definitely one of the biggest ones.
That's awesome. And in your time in the Big Ten, as you referenced, Michigan State wasn't necessarily the school, and you go and you finish fourth in the Big Ten that year. Can you talk a little bit almost about the disappointment of that being the end of the season? Jordyn and I were actually just referencing it off camera a little bit about how that happened for both of us, frankly. But
yeah,
that end to college soccer, and what was that like for you?
Oh, there were so many emotions, like it was just one of those seasons where so many good things kept happening. There were so many ups of the season. When it all ended, it was just kind of like, wow, okay, I guess it's done now. But you had to look back at it as a turning point for Michigan State soccer. It was, this is what we can do, and we can do this every year. And we have to continue to go up like this. And the ups were so fun. I remember beating Ohio State, and that was like one of those things where I was like, that is a really good win for us. Like, that's a huge, huge win. And it was exciting, and it gave, I think, a lot of, like hope for the future and for further games. They can hang. Like, there's good teams, and they can do the same thing, and they can do better. They can do, all of that. So it was just kind of weird that it came to an end. It was just kind of like, wow, I guess that's it. I'm sure Jordyn remembers we were sitting in the room just kind of watching the selection show, and we would get so excited. Like, we'd hear like this team was kind of a sleeper. They haven't really had the most success in the past, but this year they showed out, and we were like, and then it was someone else. So it was just kind of one of those things where, like, looking back, you can laugh, but in the moment it was just kind of like, wow, that's a tough way to end it. But above all, I know I was so proud of everyone. And I think the feeling was just shared throughout the team of like, we had a great year. We can't hang our heads. It was good, and there's room to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a heartbreaking little meeting room we had there, just watching that selection show. But after it all ended, did you know your next steps? You said you always wanted to play pro, but did you know that the NWSL was going to be it, and then that was your first pick of the Chicago Red Stars?
So it's super interesting. Obviously, I had talked to Jeff a lot about it. And it was kind of like, when the season was done, it was like, okay, we have to gear up. Like, we're gonna enter your name in the NWSL draft, and we're gonna get clips and make a hype video and get some hype around this. And while I was optimistic, I am always someone who tries to be realistic at the same time. If there's one thing I hate, it's like getting my hopes up for something and then like having it not be, not happen. I've always had this slight hesitation. Anything, especially like involving myself, I'm not ever going to be the person that's like, oh yeah, I'm going to get drafted and I'm going to be the first pick of the first round. Like, that's not who I am at all. Going into the draft, I was like, you know what, I probably won't get drafted, but maybe I'll get an invite, because what happens like a lot, it's very common. You might not get drafted. They only have a certain amount of picks, and there's so many girls. Sometimes you'll get a call, hey, we didn't draft you, but we'd still love to have you at preseason. We'd love to have you come, like, be a discovery player. So I think that's kind of just what I had in the back of my head, was like, okay, maybe I'll get this opportunity to do something like that. And if not, like, maybe I'll go overseas, and play somewhere there. And that wasn't something I had really thought a lot about. And it was, I think, kind of one of those things that when we get to that point, then we'll figure it out. Thankfully, I guess I didn't have to think about that, because then the draft came and I got drafted to Chicago, obviously. And that was like top 3 best moments of my life. My family was there, my friends were there. Again, I said earlier, close to home is important for me. And that's literally the closest place I could be. And I love Chicago. It's somewhere I've always grown up going to. So it was like a crazy, crazy day, crazy night, just full of like, wow, okay, I made it to the next chapter, like, it was just pretty surreal.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I remember just sitting in the airport, and I was like watching it go down, and I remember screaming so loud, like security came over and was like, is everything okay? Like, how do you pin it? That was a turning point state too. You were like the first. I was like, don't go pro. That's not a thing. And then Ava Cook comes. I'm screaming in the airport. I was just absolutely incredible. I'm so proud.
Thank you.
It's amazing. And talking about transitions and next chapters, you obviously have already had your rookie year under your belt. You've done amazing things at Chicago. What was that transition like, now going from college to pro?
One of the hardest things I have probably ever done in my life. was going from college to professional, everything, in college, let's say you're preparing for a game and you have the scouting report, right? And you probably have anywhere from 1 to 4 main players that you're scouting, whether it's for this reason or that, there's a few players, right? Well, here, it's the whole entire team. You have a scouting report and you have to make sure that you know about everyone because everyone's at that level. It's all of those 1 to 4 players that were the best on their college team. Then now they're all combined for one team. So everything is so fast. Everything is high pace. It's physical. It's technical. It's like you just ramped it up, times 10. And you find out very quickly, like you can't go into preseason and take 6 touches on the ball without getting stripped. It's a 1 or 2 touch and you're got to get rid of the ball because you probably have 4 people sprinting at you who are incredibly fast and strong, and they will strip you in transition going the other way. So it was a very, very hard transition, like physically and mentally, everyone was kind of, I'm sure they were one of the best on their college team. So to be now kind of more bottom of the barrel, it's a hard thing to adjust to. You can really get your confidence drained pretty quickly. So that was something like I definitely dealt with. I had to find ways to remain confident and just remind myself that like I'm here for a reason and I'm capable of doing the things that they think that I can do. I wouldn't be here if they didn't think that I was capable. And that's a constant reminder I had to tell myself because there's hard days, like there's days where it feels like you couldn't pay $1 million to connect a pass at practice. But you just have to continuously remind yourself that you're capable of doing it. You can do it and you are going to do it. And it really just helps you push through. I mean, the difference is large, but it's a doable difference,
Yeah, that's amazing. Going off of that, you're now in your 2nd season in the NWSL. What have you learned? Go looking forward. What are you excited for?
Oh my God, I've learned so much. Like I could probably write a whole book with how much I have learned. I mean, having the opportunity to be surrounded by some of the people that I'm surrounded by every single day and getting to work with them and getting to learn from them is incredible. Like it is just an endless opportunity of knowledge to be learned. And it's just like one of those things where I know how my rookie year went. Like there's clear things that you can come out of that and say like, okay, I'm going to go work on this, like if I need to go work on my right foot, then I have the off season to go work on my right foot. So it's not only that, but understanding the way that the game is played is something that I have tried to focus on a lot, just watching soccer, whether it's teams in our league, whether it's Premier League, US national team, understanding the soccer IQ, I think has a huge part in the way that you can play and the way that you want to play. And I'm not saying I had like 0 soccer IQ before I came, but there's definitely so much that I've learned that I think about now when I play that I probably didn't think about before. And those make big differences. Like I've noticed they make a big difference when I play. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to continuing. And like we're right now, like we're in a point where we are battling for a playoff spot. And it's exciting and it's, it gives us really, really something to focus on, just getting results and pushing forward. So there's a lot of excitement. I'm pumped. And I'm just thankful to be here and be a part of it. So.
It's amazing. How's Mochi doing with this whole transition?
He's doing well. I moved last year. So he was in my place last year. And then we did a big move this year to a new apartment. And he's just freeloading away. He doesn't pay rent. He just eats food all day and sleeps. So he's doing good. He likes it. Chi-town chinchilla. Yep. That's him.
We definitely gonna need pictures, that way we can supplement. We gotta have everyone know about the chinchilla, but that is incredible.
Oh, absolutely. He's very cute. So I think he gets a lot of attention and he knows that he gets a lot of attention. So
He's the star of the
it's a
show.
good ego boost. He really is, and he knows it and he acts like it. So
That's incredible. Well, we know that you are super busy, so we are going to wrap up with a quick lightning round with Ava Cook. We have a bunch of different wide range of topics. Give us the first impact we want everyone to know. Okay.
perfect. I'm ready.
Hype song. What are we going for?
Sorry, what was that? One more time.
Game hype song.
Pre-game hype song, anything Eminem. I love Eminem. I'm a Michigan girl. Of course I love Eminem.
Love it. Love it. If you had an actress that would play you in a movie, who would play you?
Oh my gosh, an actress. Ooh, I'm gonna go Jennifer Lawrence. I love her. She's a amazing actress. She's so cool. Like Katniss. Are you kidding me? I'd be honored.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Describe your playing style in 3 words. If you had 3 words to describe it, what would it be?
Physical, gritty, and ooh, pretty relentless, I would say.
You know, as someone that had to mark you, I would agree. I would. I
Thank you.
There's some bruises
That
that
was-
were probably left from you on me, so fair enough. Fair.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Okay, if you're looking back on college soccer, what memory stands out to you?
Oh, I mean, this is so cliche, but the national championship has to be, get double overtime game winner by my dear friend Gianna Parlov, and the dog pile, the whole 9 yards, everything.
Gotta be. I mean, who cares if it's cliche? It's the right answer, frankly.
It's the right answer. It's the right answer.
If you said anything else, it would be.
Yeah, right. It would be like, why didn't she say that?
Simply. Exactly. Last one. For any young girl listening to this podcast, what is the biggest advice you could give them?
I love this question, and I say it all the time with any young group of people that I talk to. It is be coachable. There's going to be times where you hear stuff you don't want to hear, but you have to take that in the way that those who are saying it to you are saying it to you because they know what you're capable of and they believe in you. And even if it comes off in a way that might not make you the happiest person ever, you have to be coachable, and you have to trust that they're telling you what's best for you, and you just have to try to do it. And I'm sure that once you do it, you're going to be like, no, they were right. So be coachable. That's what I always harp on, and I love it.
Great advice. Great advice.
Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you,
Ava
thank you.
Cook, you are amazing. We are honored to have you as our first guest on the Big Life podcast, forever in the history books. What can we say? And just know that we and Girls Soccer Network are behind you all the way.
You guys,
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast, and I can't wait to listen to more in the future. I look forward.
You lived the big life, and it was an honor playing with you, and it's been so fun watching your career these past few years in the pro life. So
Stop.
luck
You're
for
going to make
the
me
rest of
tear up, Jordyn. Knock it off. Thanks, guys.
Once again, we just want to say thank you so much for Ava for taking her time and spending it with us. It was definitely a great way for me. I'm a little motivated after hearing all that. So I can't imagine how listeners are feeling.
Absolutely. Like I said, such an incredible story, and I'm so happy we got to share it on here. So thanks again, Ava. Forever your #1 fan. Congrats on all the success you've had thus far. So
Jordan, I gotta know. So when you were a freshman and Ava was a 5th year, was there any like what Ava get on you for? What was that dynamic like with you and Ava on the same field?
yeah, my first. Okay. So I was coming in, and then you get the kind of Instagram notification. It's like Ava Cook's coming, and you read the little bio, and it's like leading scorer in all of NCAA, like played for Jeff. I'm coming in, new coach. Jeff didn't recruit me, so I'm just like, dang it, like like I'm screwed. But then this girl shows up on the first day of practices with like a foldable chair that she puts down on the sidelines because she's not like eligible yet for transfer reasons. So she looks like the most soccer mom girl ever. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on? She shows up, and it was like she immediately kind of took me under her wing, I think. And it was incredible mentorship I had from her. I learned so much being able to share the field with her. I honestly, the biggest thing I remember is just kind of her support, her kind of talking me through it. I was having a hard time adjusting to the life of a college athlete in the Big Ten, and she helped a lot with that transition period and getting me through it. And I just remember kind of being starstruck by her. She talked about her hype video a little bit, and I still have screen recordings on my phone, like a little geek. I'm like, oh my God, like this, I'm in it, I'm giving her like a little fist bump, and I'm like, just, the coolest moments ever. We're being able to share the field in those moments with her. So I'm sure she got on me for a lot, and I'm sure all of it, but the biggest thing I remember and learned and took away from her was just her attitude, her relentlessness, and her ability to lead others and to get me through kind of that freshman year. So
what a leader, what a person. But speaking of transitioning to Big Ten, we are out of non-conference and we are in Big Ten. So Jordyn, I'm going to ask you the question on everyone's mind. Going into Big Tens, who's looking hot?
I hate to say it, and every year, but I mean Penn State, they've had an incredible year thus far, and they're always a team to kind of look out for.
100%. I think the other team I'd add to that list is Nebraska right now. And as much as Iowa and Nebraska is a bit of a rivalry, you got to put respect. Eleanor Dale, we looked it up, has 12 goals already going into non-conference. And last year, the entire season, the leading goal scorer was Ally Schlegel at Penn State with 13 goals. So she's close to already beating that halfway through the season. So that's a team you got to put respect on their offense and their attack. And it'll be interesting to see them as they go throughout the season.
Well, like, what a crazy statistic. She has all season to score one more goal and then, tie for what last year was the leading goal scorer for the entire season. So it'll be really interesting to see how she finishes out this year. But I mean, props to her.
I think another team that you never can sleep on is Wisconsin. They have some dynamic people in attack. They have that 0-0 tie against North Carolina. A couple other big things happen for them in the non-conference, and definitely a team I think I have an eye out for. We played them in week 2. So
yeah, also Northwestern in there as well. They find themselves kind of high up in the rankings normally, and a talented team and program. Again, it will be interesting to see how they finish out this year.
I got to ask the question on everyone's mind, Jordyn. Who do you got as a sleeper this year?
I mean, I gotta give it to Iowa. I still think you guys are a sleeper. I don't know if anyone really sees it coming, but to be undefeated right now at this point in the season, you got to put some respect behind it. You guys are a dangerous team to play. We're 1-1 right now in our career, my career here thus far. So in the 3 games we've played, this will be the season that kind of determines it. So I'm excited to see what you guys do.
Just gotta keep you saying all the good things about Iowa right now. I'm not gonna lie, I'm putting us in the sleeper as well. There was a TV announcer during your game I referenced last week that called us the Sleeping Giants. And we've embraced that. We love that. And I think it's true. We're undefeated for the first time since 2019 going into our real season, into the Big Ten. So we're hungry. We tied Virginia on the road this week. That's no small feat. And 1 goal against us, which gives us a top 5 defense in the country right now. So as a part of that back line, I am living in it, but we also know that non-conference is done. That chapter's closed and a new one starts on Sunday. So Jordyn, what does Sunlight, you said Ohio State, how we feel about that? What are we looking forward to?
To the people, I always love playing Ohio State just because I grew up playing with a lot of the girls and know them. So it's always kind of my favorite game of the season, like I said. To have it be our conference opener at St. Martin, pack the stadium. We have the Red Star Rowdies there going for us. #1 fan group, I think.
I gotta talk about them real quick. I'm sorry to jump in. You guys have the funniest student section, and I'm sorry to give it credit. There's some student sections I don't like. Like, I don't really let it get to me. There's some things, like either a line's crossed or they're just like obnoxious. I'll give it to you guys. The only thing people say about Iowa is like corn. Like, guys, can we be more creative when we're yelling at Iowa? Like, yeah, we get it. It's corn. We typically have yellow jerseys. We look like corn. We get that way too much. But I will never forget, like, stopping dead in my tracks and laughing so hard at your student. Like, there was one game freshman year. I'll never forget it. They're like screaming at me as I'm taking a throw and asking what my favorite Scooby-Doo movie is. We have a player and we had backlines. We had Hannah, who didn't have an H at the end of her name, but we had Hannah had the H. And Sarah didn't have the H. And the entire game, they're screaming at the two of them about how someone has to give the H to the other one at the end of their name to make both of their names spelled correctly. And I just remember dying laughing. So full respect to your stadium and the people you bring out.
Absolutely. I mean, we have to have the #1 student section. Red Star Rowdies, They go crazy, they go hard. It's an incredible environment to be a part of. And I agree. I think they're the funniest group in college soccer right now. They're never disrespectful or anything like that. They're just funny, loud, and supportive, and I absolutely love it.
And we're going into Illinois this week. We have hosting Illinois in Iowa City on Sunday. Illinois and us always have a tight game. There's always a bit of a chippiness and an edge to that game. And so super excited for being ready to go and starting Big Tens on a high note and ready to get it going.
Awesome.
I know that it has been a long travel day for both of us. We've had a lot going on. Go enjoy the rest of your off day, everyone. Thursday, we have off this week. Both of our games kick off Sunday. Big Ten Conference kicks off Sunday. Be sure to tune in. And as always, soccer on.
Bye, guys.